So we all know that beautiful cakes start with gorgeous, even layers. And we're going to give you a few tips on how to do it.
Exactly. So the way to get even layers is to make sure you have the same amount of batter in all your pans, whether you're using 2 or 3. So the best way to do that is to weigh your pans and to weigh the amount of batter that's going into each pan. Now, not everyone has a kitchen scale, we do realize.
We recommend having a kitchen scale for so many tasks. It will solve a lot of your problems for weight, whether you're cooking meat or baking a cake.
So this is a good excuse to get one. So we're going to take your pan and put it on your scale. And whatever the weight of the pan is, we're going to tear that out so that it starts at 0.
Perfect.
Now we have our batter here. And again, this is whether you're making it from scratch or you're making it from a mix. So we're going to pour that in.
And you can eyeball about half of it, and then we'll finesse it once we get half of it in.
Exactly. So that looks like
Looks
about
pretty
half.
good. Let's see, should I move that for you?
Yeah.
Move this back over here.
And now this other pan is going to weigh the same.
So we'll just
So we'll
go
just
back.
throw it right in there. So the other one we had about 14.5 ounces. So scrape
What do we have
this
here?
in. We're getting
Okay,
there.
Getting good.
14.5.
That's great. Okay.
Exactly.
Excellent. All right. So.
So then we're going to tap it a couple times just to get the air bubbles out.
Okay. Well. All right. That seems good.
That's right. And we're all done with this.
Excellent. So Sherry, I noticed, I didn't want to make you feel bad, but what are these little towel things
I know,
around
they're all
your...
dressed up. They're all bundled up. So if you really want extra insurance for perfectly even layers, what you can do is actually insulate your pans with towels. So the reason that you end up with a dome in the middle of a lot of cakes is that it's actually hotter around the edge of the cakes when they're baking than in the middle. So what happens is the cakes actually start to set on the
Right,
outside.
and cook on the outside first, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the middle, meanwhile, keeps rising. So you get this dome. And
We've all seen the dome.
exactly, the dome, the dreaded dome. But if you insulate the outside, you kind of even the temperatures out so that hopefully everything rises at the same time. So what I have here are just old kitchen towels that I've cut in half and soaked in water, wrung out, folded, and then just literally safety pinned onto these cake pans. And they sell, you know, they sell products that do this, but you could just use an old rag. So.
Exactly. And notice the cake pans that we're using have been approved, tested and approved in the Good Housekeeping Kitchen Appliances Lab. You'll notice that they're very matte, light colored. This is also going to help our baking evenly and not get too brown too soon.
Yeah, we take their advice pretty seriously.
We do.
So then these are ready to go in the oven.
All right, let's go. So sometimes, even when you think everything's right, it could be that your oven rack is not even, and you still get a little bit of unevenness in your layers. But we can fix that really easily. I'm going to show you how. Here we have a serrated knife. I love one if you have it that's longer than the layer so that you can just glide right through. So you can see on this one that we're about ½ an inch lower on this side than we are over here. So we're not going to take anything off there. We're just going to leave this, put it completely flat against the layer. And then I'm going to use my hand as a guide to hold it steady and just going to glide right through, holding it parallel to the cake and just kind of like a light sawing motion.
Now do I get to eat what you saw?
I was just going to tell you about this. You know, eventually you might be able to eat it, but let's just look and see what happens because sometimes the other layer might need a little compensation and we can use that piece of cake as a shim. So we might want to save that. The other thing you can do with it is you can toast up the crumbs separately and use them for another dessert or use them on top of the cake as a decoration. You know those crumb mud cakes and things like that?
Right.
So lots of things to do with this piece
So
of cake.
restrain myself.
Restrain yourself for right now. Yes, thank you. Okay, so here we go.
So that's precious stuff there.
So this is precious stuff. And you can see now we've got just definitely a more even layer here. I'm going to put this over here. This one is not quite as dramatic. We probably could get away with it, but we want to give everybody an even portion of frosting. So I'm just going to take a little bit off, basically from about here. That looks pretty good. And these cakes are nice and moist, I have to say. All right. Good. So here we go. That's pretty good. Let me take a little bit more off there. That's good. So I can see I made a little, I didn't go quite to the
So
left.
you can keep going back and
You
trimming
can
just
keep
a
it,
little
yeah.
bit.
It's just like, you know, you just don't want to go into that thing like a hair cutter or a barber where you keep going and going and you don't have any
Right.
layer left. But this is, this looks pretty
Right.
good. Everybody's going to have an even amount of frosting and layers, and I think this is really pretty great. So here we are. We're ready for the next step.
And frosting hides a lot of sins.
Frosting
so.
hides a lot of things, but we're going to keep these aside just for the shimming possibility.
Yep.
We're pretty ready to go, ready for the frosting.